Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Voices for Change 2.0, the only podcast that focuses on mental health while mixing in movies, music, books, sports, and pop culture. Here are your hosts, Rebecca and Joe Lombardo.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. We are so happy to be back with you.
Yeah, welcome back to Voices for Change 2.0. We are so honored that you guys stuck around with us through our how do you say it?
Hiatus.
Thank you. Yes.
We're on sabbatical.
We're on sabbatical. Yes, that's a better way to put it, and I can pronounce sabbatical. I can't pronounce hiatus, apparently.
We've had just a lot of different things going on, and we just came to the realization one day that we just couldn't do the show for, an extended period of time. It just wasn't, I'll be honest. It was a great deal having to do with me and my mental status, I guess you could say.
Yeah, your mental health was not healthy.
Not the greatest.
Yeah.
I'm working it back now. I'm doing much better. I can do the show now. So, before it was sort of a daunting task that I was just absolutely terrified to do, and I'm feeling pretty good today. So, I'm grateful for everyone that stuck by us through this time away, and everybody that we had to reschedule or cancel or whatever. I just really, really appreciate you being so understanding. I didn't have one person, get cross with me about the whole situation. Everybody was understanding, and I just really, really am grateful for that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, you guys. And, everybody that we had to reschedule and cancel with, we will get you on the show. Please be patient with us. We're trying to figure things out now. But in the meantime, those are shows for another day, and this is the show for today. And,
And how about those Lions?
Oh, you really went there. You were just the worst kind of person.
I know I am.
Oh, my God.
We
yeah,
have to talk a little bit about something that our introduction talks about.
It doesn't have to be the Lions. That's god awful, sure. Although Kerryon Johnson was practicing this week, so that's a promising sign. And there's even speculation that Matt Stafford might be back by the end of the season, the last two games or something, or the last game.
No, that's still not going to get us in the playoffs.
Oh no, God no. It'd just be nice to have another win, but
yeah.
All right, there's one thing I gotta get off my chest really quick, and then we can bring in our wonderful guest.
Okay.
Baby Yoda.
Oh,
okay.
Come on, man.
Loving the Mandalorian, loving Baby Yoda, for lack of a better name, and if you haven't seen the Mandalorian, but you're a Star Wars fan, do yourself a favor.
It's on Disney Plus.
Yep. Spend the $7 a month to get Disney Plus. That show alone is worth it. Yes, it's that good. So
I'm a Star Wars fan to a degree. I was always sort of the original trilogy is fine by me. You don't need to add anything else. Just leave it alone kind of person. And I've since seen most of those movies. I still haven't recovered from Phantom Menace. And I don't have any interest in this. And this big, huge blow up about this Baby Yoda thing. Yeah, it's cute, but I just don't care that much. it's everywhere.
You haven't, but all you've seen is pictures. You haven't seen it actually
on
the
show. I saw a video.
And it's so freaking adorable. And the fact that it's not CGI is, to me, the most amazing thing about it. So, all right, that's enough Baby Yoda.
Yeah, no more
I know
Baby
it's
Yoda.
driving you nuts.
So today, let's talk about today.
Yes, let's talk about today.
We are going to be discussing a topic that we haven't covered a lot. We're very excited to get get in the mix with this. We're speaking with a trauma recovery coach today, and we're very excited to try and get some answers for some of our listeners, maybe, and just kind of learn about what he does and what makes a trauma recovery coach. So please welcome to our show, Mr. Will Wissmiller.
Hey, good morning, Rebecca. Good morning, Joe.
Hey, thanks for joining us. Sorry about the abrupt cutoff when we were talking before the show started.
Blog talk.
It's timing problem.
That's all you can say.
Yeah.
No worries.
We'd be lost without Blog Talk Radio, but it does have its quirks.
Yes.
Well, I don't know I'm with you, Rebecca. I haven't seen The Mandalorian, so I'm going to chime in on that. But the pictures are out there. I'm intrigued, to say the least.
Yeah.
If you're a Star Wars fan, it's worth it alone watching. Just diving in on the first episode. It's very Star Wars. Just the way the whole show is done. They spent $25 million an episode, and it shows. It's excellent. Baby Yoda aside.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
$25 million. Well, and the fact that they go back to some of their roots, right? Because it didn't start out with CGI. It was, planes on a string on a black backdrop. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's it takes place 5 years after Return of the Jedi. So, the Empire has fallen, the First Order hasn't risen yet. So it's kind of the Old West.
It's technically not Baby Yoda.
Yeah. We don't know.
That's what they're calling it, but Yoda was like 900 years old.
Yeah, this is
when he died.
There's a lot of speculation on what the child is. It could be, my personal feeling, it could be a clone of Yoda. It could be a child of Yoda. It could be completely unrelated to Yoda, and it's just his species. But Lucasfilm never released the name of the species that Yoda is. So,
right.
It's just easier calling him Baby Yoda because they have to give him a name.
Well, I'm in this culture because of my kids. I've got a nearly 22-year-old. I got a 15-year-old and 16-year-old. So the 15 and 16 are still at home. They have been beating me down. We want to see this. Can we get this? Because we don't have that platform. So we might have to get on there just to watch that.
Yeah. Well, it's honestly, it's really good to have just for everything else that's on it too. With the Marvel movies and the Pixar movies and the all the Disney movies. The thing I found fascinating is part of it is National Geographic, and there's actually some really good documentaries on there too. Which I wasn't expecting. So that's really cool. So yeah, I mean, for $7 a month, it's just a heck of a deal.
Oh, there goes my time. Another time sucker. Come on, I got to get some work done, Joe.
Sorry, bud. Now
that's all right.
Now I got to contact Disney about getting some payment for that
that
ad I just gave them. Yeah. They can spare it.
All right. Well, if you don't have any questions for us, we're gonna go ahead and jump in.
You bet.
Awesome.
Okay. So we're back and we're doing it now. So we're gonna start with our question that we left off with.
The question of all questions.
The
question we always ask everybody all the time, first out of the gate. Where does your mental health journey begin, Will?
Oh my gosh. Where does my mental health journey begin? So if you want to talk about where the trauma started, that goes back into, that's pretty verbal. But if you want to talk about my journey for recovery from what I now know is complex trauma, developmental trauma, as Bessel van der Kolk calls it, that journey probably started when I was about 21 years old. I was in my second year of college, Northern Illinois University, taking more hours of classes than I should have, and my oldest brother, had passed away when I was 16, and he was nearly 19. And there were three of us brothers, so I was the youngest. We were really close in age. Never had a proper grieving process. Never had someone who was trauma informed to talk to about it. Basically became a workaholic if I already wasn't. I threw myself at books in school and had a 4.0 and got some scholarships, went to college, and I kept pushing myself. So my journey for recovery began when I realized in college that this is a pressure cooker. You can only shove things down for so long. And I didn't even realize what I was shoving down. I just knew that at that time I was starting to have severe emotional flashbacks. I was starting to have and that's not even the roots of my trauma, because it starts back at stuff before this. But this was really the trigger, I believe, was that intense grief that was never able to be addressed. And then I'm putting the world on my shoulders, thinking I can do everything I can to get a degree in something, not even knowing what it is, but throwing myself at something. It's no different than any addiction. It's no different than any other dissociation. But I got to a point where I wasn't sleeping, and so I sought out help through the mental health services at the university. And that really began my journey with, actually love-hate journey with the medical model of mental health and recovery. I think there was a lot more re-traumatization than there was recovery for me, because I was diagnosed with many different things through the years, put on medications for many different things through the years. But until I discovered what I actually do now, the trauma-informed trauma recovery coaching, and became a certified trauma recovery coach after having this be such a huge epiphany for me, until I got to there, until I found that resource, I fumbled through therapists and counselors and different things and doctors prescribing medicine for years, and never could have a sense of ease or recovery, or like things could be easier for me. I could come back to quote unquote some kind of normalcy. So that's where my mental health recovery journey began.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah. This question just popped into my head. We probably will cover this more later, but I'm an empath, and whenever I kind of have a tendency to pick up other people's emotions when they're explaining things to me and things like that. I just wonder, as someone who has experienced trauma and is now a trauma recovery coach, do you ever experience that type of sensation where it's sort of triggering for you to hear another person's story?
I'm glad you asked that, because that is a huge, huge piece of learning this process of becoming a coach. You're going to deal with people and their trauma. And guess what, folks? There's not enough help out there. So the fact that this is a thing, the fact that this association I'm a part of exists, the fact that I'm doing this work exists, and that people are kind of asking the question you guys are asking me, what is this? Because trauma survivors, myself included, I don't trust easy. I'm very much skeptical of anything that's out there. So when people ask me the question, what is this? And I have to be able to explain it to people in a way that that people who are empaths, like I consider myself to be as well, Rebecca, are not going to be turned away and go, well, this guy's just another coach out after money. No, I really feel that this type of work is going to change the world. That's how it's set up. The process of learning this stuff is set up. And to get back to what you asked me, am I affected? It's a huge part of the learning that goes into the coaching. You can't do this work. It's highly intensive when you get into the training. You are expected to kind of mull over your trauma history, to do a timeline, and to talk about the deepest, darkest things. And it's triggering just to do that in the beginning. And self-care is just like so important. You've got to balance. If I'm working, let's say I have 5 clients in a day, you better believe I'm probably taking a day off. I'm going to do what works for me. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go out in nature. I'm going to get a massage or a Reiki worker. I wish there was somebody else that did what I do with body work, the neuroaffective touch, because it is so highly effective for the trauma release and just relaxing me. When I've had people work on that with me, it's different. Well, we can talk about that later, but so body work and movement. My autonomic nervous system activation, I fall on that side of the spectrum. Some people, I can do more grounding now that I'm further along in my journey. Like I can sit still and try to, do yoga or meditation, things like that. But generally, when I'm highly activated, movement is my go-to. Or I'm even learning other things, smells, nature. But for me, for most of my life, movement has been a big way for me to ground. But yes, Rebecca, to sum that up, I am highly effective. It is when you suck in other people's stuff, and that's a part of what I understand about my nature. And I'm assuming it's probably the same for you. We are kind of conduits. We are open to receive that stuff. And that's the reason I'm able to hold space for people and earn their trust and do this work with them, because the work of a coach is basically, as Bobby Parrish, the one who started this International Association of Trauma Recovery Coaching, she's taught me, she's been my mentor and teacher, you're essentially a surrogate. We sit with a client, whether online or in person, and one of the first things I say is, I exist here so you can learn to trust me, and then you can learn to trust yourself again, and then possibly at the end of this, you learn to trust others again. And I don't want to keep clients. I want to see that fast,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you talked about it a little bit, but if you can get a little more into it, just for the uninitiated, what is, trauma recovery coaching, and how long have you been a trauma recovery coach?
Okay, I'll start with the second question. I started my journey in learning with an initial intensive training. So I went to a nearly week-long training in Orlando, April of 2018. I am now finishing up my advanced certification, and it should be done very soon with my supervisory certification. So now I'm becoming a part of leadership and training within the organization. And I'll explain a little bit behind that just really quickly. The advanced certification allows coaches to help with mentoring, new coaches coming in. The supervisory allows me to eventually start training those other coaches coming in, because Bobby's vision is to see this ripple effect, to see it change the world. And her pricing is very reasonable. There's other people out there doing stuff, and they're just taking an arm and a leg. But she is a survivor. Almost everyone I've met that's become a coach in this organization is a survivor of trauma. A lot of CSA, a lot of narcissistic abuse, emotional abuse, neglect, even some what's it called? Parent not expected. Am I thinking correctly? People finding out that their parents are not their parents. There's a lot of that going on nowadays with the Ancestry.com and things like that. So that's a big group that we're seeing coming and checking it out. Yeah. I
guess that would be pretty traumatic.
Yeah, it's very. And there is a fellow coach in our organization who she found out, and it's been traumatic for her. She found it not too long ago. So we're going to try to develop some curriculum around that. Yes, and then we have coaches who are, have spent a lifetime in addiction recovery themselves. That's a part of their story. We have coaches who have been in the military, so they're really strong on the PTSD military model. We have coaches who have been therapists, have been counselors, who are neurobiologists. So it's kind of, just because you become a coach, it's not just picking up this a week-long training and going out into the world and saying, hey, I'm a coach, hire me. A lot of people have had their own lifelong journey. And I'll get back to your first question now, Joe. Sorry. What is a trauma recovery coach? It's different than a therapist or a counselor or a medical, psychologist, somebody who prescribes medicine. We're obviously not prescribing medication. We're not doing diagnosis. If someone is in a state of activation where they're actively suicidal or they're actively abusing or using drugs. They're in an abusive situation. I'm very upfront. When I sign up to work with someone, I have in my contract, my policies and procedures, it's all in there, and we do a risk assessment in the beginning. If they meet a certain criteria, I'm going to recommend. I can work concurrently with a therapist, and I would love to be in contact with a therapist or a counselor in that process, and still work with somebody as a coach. But coaching is not therapy. If that is going on, they need other resources. So a big part of the coaching is for someone who comes in and they have maybe a higher level of activation, they're not able to regulate their nervous system very well or something, and we get a lot of that because there is a need for this. We're going to recommend to find local resources for them, to find, safe house, or to find something in their area, even helping somebody find a therapist. The neat part of being a part of the association is I'll meet with someone and do a free discovery call and say, hey, I would love to work with you because, I do this for a living. I've invested a lot of money in this, and I want to make money, but I prefer to refer you over to my friend Jen or my friend Jade or my friend Lucy, because I know that there might be a better match for someone. And it's all about the relationship. Another quote, to quote Bobby, it's this trauma that we carry around happens in the relationships that we have in childhood mostly, and some of us later in life. There's also acute trauma. There's rape and sexual abuse and marital abuse, things like that happen. Not to preclude those or to exclude those, but the developmental trauma, that's my sweet spot. That's where I come from, and I really empathize and get that. Is that relationships cause the trauma that we carry, but these relationships, a coaching relationship, has the potential to heal it, to lead towards trust relationships again.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I spent my whole life with trust issues. I couldn't begin to tell you where that comes from, but it's something I've dealt with all my life. And I have a lot of friends and I know a lot of people, but the amount of people that I fully and truly completely trust, that's a very small number, So it's I completely get that. That's trust is a tough thing to rebuild.
Yes. Oh God. I love that. I use this with my kids, and Joe, I'm picking up on yours right now. I mean, this is making me kind of tear up because you're not alone. I'm the same with that here. You're talking about, and not to exclude any other group, but as men, it's just not expected. Stoicism, or abuse of a substance, or becoming aggressive, those are acceptable for a man.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, buddy, I'm struggling, is not. And finding people you can trust to deal with that stuff, man.
It's hard. It's real hard.
And the relationship piece, most of the communication is nonverbal, man. So when you go to talk to somebody and you show up and some of that emotion comes out, and even if you aren't even able to start talking, the guy picks up on an emotion and they're immediately, most of them are like, I can't deal with this. And whatever they do to stay away from that or avoid that, they do. And you see that enough times, you and I and anybody else who's been through this, you just learn to stop asking or saying anything.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. It. Let's see. I was about to ask you a question, but Scott is typing us a.
No, you're fine.
No, you're good. Scott's typing us a message, and I have a feeling it has to do with us taking our first break. That's exactly what it is. So,
all right.
What we generally do is we'll chat for a good 20-25 minutes, and then play a song just to take a break, and so that's what we're gonna do. So
we will catch you on the other side of "Dear My Future Self" by David Hernandez.
Yep.
All right.
In my future self. Whoa, whoa, whoa. It's hard to see when you're caught in the thick of it. It's hard to feel when you're trying just to forget. Looking in the rearview mirror, it's impossible to see ahead. Trying your best just to see things clearer and get out of your head. Yeah, I've been running in circles. It's a journey, it's a struggle, but I know when the world breaks, you stand tall. When you feel pain, you fight it off. When they go low, you go high, 'cause you're gonna rewrite the storyline. Those that don't believe in you, farewell. They try to keep you down, but time will tell. Take a leap of faith, you won't fail. As I write the word, in my future self. In my future self. It's hard to hear through the voices doubting you. It's hard to taste success when there's nothing new. Staring at yourself in the mirror. What's it now that you want to change? Feel like you're never gonna see things clearer. It's time to turn the page. Yeah, I've been running, I've been hiding with no peace. It's a struggle, it's a struggle to find me. When the world breaks, you stand tall. When you feel pain, you fight it off. When they go low, you go high, 'cause you're gonna rewrite the storyline. Those that don't believe in you, farewell. They try to keep you down, but time will tell. Take a leap of faith, you won't fail. As I write the word, in my future self. You gotta keep up, you gotta be strong. Don't lose the faith, you gotta keep on. You gotta keep up, you gotta be strong. Be strong, be strong. You gotta keep up, you gotta be strong. Don't lose the faith, you gotta keep on. You gotta keep up, you gotta be strong. Be strong. When the world breaks, you stand tall. When you feel pain, you fight it off. When they go low, you go high. You're gonna rewrite the storyline. Those that don't believe in you, farewell. They try to keep you down, but time will tell. Take a leap of faith, you won't fail. As I write the word, in my future self. In my future self. In my future self. In my future self.
That's a cool end to that song.
Yeah.
Hey guys, welcome back to Voices for Change 2.0. I'm Joe, she's Rebecca, and on the line we have the lovely and talented Mr. Will Wissmiller. How you doing, sir?
You flatter, sir.
I do. That's what I do. So, but yeah, like we were talking on the break a little bit that we were talking about like our artistry and being artistic and
Having an outlet.
And having an outlet. And I think, sometimes those that are more artistically inclined, maybe they have a harder time expressing themselves and getting all their stuff out. This thought literally just popped into my head. You think about some of the great comedians in life, that we've seen, your Adam Sandlers and your Louis Andersons and different people like that will have something going on with them. They're weight
Right.
or they're angry or what have you, and something happens along their journey, as especially as they rise. They'll seek out a way to address whatever trauma they've dealt with in the past, and you see their material kind of change. Sometimes
Right.
for the better, sometimes for the worse. Sometimes their entire career goes down a completely different path, and it's interesting because it kind of makes me wonder. Well, when you're some type of artist, are you drawing on that pain to inform what you're doing? And now that you've relieved that pain, can you still do what you're doing? Just an interesting thought.
That's
because
neat.
you do.
Yeah,
You think about
Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy's one of them. Mike Myers is another one.
Robin
he
Williams.
was huge. Robin Williams is another. Well, Robin Williams never completely.
He never really.
He didn't
over.
He didn't drop off the face of the earth like
No,
Eddie
but he
Murphy did. Like you didn't.
Yeah.
You didn't see Eddie Murphy for years. You still don't hardly see him anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jim Carrey.
And Jim Carrey's another one.
Yeah, he's totally changed.
Yeah, and I remember hearing Sandler in particular say, well, I'm not that angry young man that I was. And I think that's partly where that comes from, at least for him,
Right.
And again, I mentioned Louis Anderson because, I know, a lot of his comedy came from the trauma of him growing up, being overweight. And, he had lost some weight and got counseling for it. And now you don't hear as much about him, and,
Sure.
so.
Anyway,
I'm not really sure where I was going with that.
Well, and I would just mention, I don't think he'd have a problem. So we were talking about our friend Brian Cardoza and his art, and it's amazing. And he's also, he's got this ability to communicate and share his story.
Yep.
He's openly shared about how, and this is my story too, how is generally, what is it? I don't even know the stat correctly, if it's 80 or 90% of men who take up bodybuilding or strength building of some sort have been sexually abused or some sort of abuse as a child. It's staggering, because they want to become strong. I want to become strong. Nobody's going to hurt me again.
Exactly.
That's so it's. But yes, getting back to that story of, gosh, the artistry that comes out. Does that mean once you come to that point that you can't have that ability? I don't think so. I think it just maybe comes into, it shifts. It doesn't become as important for you to, whether it's Adam Sandler being, the angry young man, or somebody taking on, because you see the world is so screwed up. Like, say, Jim Carrey throwing things up in people's faces, and he's very, his political drawings are just wild and amazing, but they might shift to a place of more compassion and realize that, life's more about me finding joy than it is for me trying to get whatever this demon in me is out,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing is I think the focus shifts, that's why I haven't seen much with Mike Myers. He eventually, I think, sought out a Buddhist or something, and went down that path, and his focus changed, and he's starting to pop up here and there with things, but I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that.
That's all right.
So let's get back to our questions, though.
Sure.
So the question I was going to ask before our break was, and you briefly mentioned it, but I'd really like to get into it, is what is neuroaffective touch and how is it used in trauma recovery?
Okay. I love neuroaffective touch. I am passionate about the work. Aileen LaPierre she's in the LA area, developed this out of so many other modalities: somatic experiencing, bodywork massage, acupressure. It's informed by NARM, which stands for the Neuroaffective Relational Model of Healing Trauma, and it takes into account a top-down and bottom-up approach to therapists use. So I'm not a NARM-trained therapist, but I am a neuroaffective touch-trained body worker. So there's a difference. If somebody works in NARM, they are using basically a talk therapy method to deal with the prefrontal cortex and how we logically, think through our past and history and in therapy. And that's been typically the medical model of a psychological intervention. But NARM takes into effect the embodied brain and how trauma stores and cortisol stores in every cell of our body, and tries to create connections from the bottom up. And Alain Lapierre, who developed the neuroaffective touch, talks about how, once the body has been in shock from trauma and that stuff gets stored in the body, we need to reconnect the communication between the brain and the body. And if you only focus on the mind, you're only getting about 30% of the messages from the brain to the body, from the mind to the body, are about 30% of the traffic in the nervous system. 70% is all the messages being sent to the brain. So if we can address that, and you can address that in a form of touch. So neuroaffective touch uses languaging specific to trying to recreate safe connections, create new pathways between the body and the brain, and allow the cortisol to release, allow the new communication between the brain and the body so that there's safety established. So the somatic experiencing piece understands that there is a need to attach meaning to what you feel in your body. If you're feeling your gut wrench, or your heart hurt, or your back feels like somebody's stabbing you in the back, or you feel pain in your legs, it has meaning. There is something behind that. So we dig into that in the work. It's work that's all clothing on. I use a massage table, but sometimes people aren't even comfortable with that. They might just sit in a chair. And if somebody's really has hard issues with trust, we can just start with, okay, whatever you're comfortable with. If someone wants to go that route, try neuroaffective touch. It goes hand in hand really well with the coaching, the trauma recovery coaching, because I can establish trust, and if they're having trouble, if they're really still having trust issues and they're stuck, we can go into that touch if they want to. I might just be a hand on a shoulder, and we talk about that. How does it feel? If I get somebody on the table, we train in the neuroaffective touch in the thoracic inlet, which is around the throat and the collarbone and the shoulders, and we also focus, say, on the input areas, our eyes, nose, ears, mouth. We'll get into the acupressure points around the navel. There's a lot of places that our neurobiology connects different things in our body to the mind. It's amazing what just touching somebody's feet. The ability to release and to sink into a feeling of safety so much quicker than just talk therapy has been profound for me when other people work on me and when I work on others. If you guys have ever heard about, there's therapists out there who have, I don't even know if it's becoming more of a thing, but have tested and used basically what's the street drug ecstasy to create a sense of trust and safety in clients and working through trauma.
That's scary.
Well, it's a titrated. It's a very, they only use it in a session. They don't prescribe it to somebody and go home and say, here, use ecstasy. But they found it's very effective in creating trust quickly. That's why it works for what people use it for when they put it in somebody's drink, unfortunately. I see this touch work, neuroaffective touch, very, very highly effective at getting somebody who is nervous system activated on a table and feeling. Guys, when I had somebody work on me, some talented folks work on me, I had never felt so at peace. I don't remember ever feeling, because I've been hypervigilant most of my life, sinking into that table and feeling everything in my body as if I just didn't have, I wasn't holding on to any of it. It makes me emotional to talk about it. It's profound. I hope that answers the question for you. But
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. In my research, I noticed that you mentioned that neuroaffective touch also has uses outside of trauma recovery. What would some of those be?
Oh gosh, I mean, for some of the same things I mentioned, we're not always aware of why we hold the tension or the stress. Generally, it comes from somewhere. Most of our emotional baggage is attached to the body's memories from childhood. So you might have just been emotionally neglected as a child, or maybe your dad was very stoic, as mine was. Maybe you're afraid that when somebody looks at you a certain way, even though it's not conscious, your body is going to react to that. So people don't always know. But people seek out acupuncture, acupressure, massage, Reiki, energy work, to try to release tension in the body. This is I find it's more effective for me than just about any of that. I can leave a session and I feel like, when people talk about going to a spa and then just coming back and they're just feeling so zen and at peace, having that experience in a 60-minute or 90-minute, or even if somebody wants to do, it's more effective to really get into it, I feel, than if you do at least an hour. But people want to, even if I can do an hour and a half, then I'm like, I guarantee you're going to feel like, you haven't felt probably in years if you're holding tension. So stress relief, just for the same reason somebody goes to seek a spa service. It's more than just trauma recovery, though it was developed with that in mind. Dealing with people who have a history of some sort of traumatic experience, whether it's complex or acute. But it is so much more than that.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Now, are there other methods for recovering from complex trauma?
Well, I could go with my history of self-care and self-help and seeking out that I've had success with EMDR. However, I caution, find somebody who's trained in it, because there is a titration to that too. You want to work with somebody who's able to bring you up into it and then bring you back down at the end of the session so that you're not highly activated when you leave. I had some pretty lucid dreams afterwards. My hypervigilance for years meant I didn't dream at all. I can tell when I'm getting into the roots of my trauma, I will start to have some pretty funky dreams. So stuff gets loosened up. I feel safe. So EMDR has been one. Brain spotting, which I do on my own a lot now too, especially if I'm having trouble sleeping, finding a binaural or bilateral tracks to listen to that you resonate with. And that, even ASMR, which has kind of a bad rap, but the neuroaffective touch that's one of the things that feeds into it. It's not ASMR that feeds into it, but the idea that our body has a midline and trauma tends to disconnect things. So Aileen described it so well that in trauma, it's a shock to the system, and our body has different diaphragmatic, if that's the right word, diaphragm areas that we will cut off. So if I have my heart's hurting, that means that probably my lungs and my heart are shut out. They're holding something in. And if we release that disconnect between the heart, lungs, and the rest of the body, that we can start to feel whole and start to feel at peace. She talks about even the single-celled organisms will react to, let's say, an electric shock. They are in a flux, if you will, of communication back and forth. And then when they're shocked, they'll stop and they'll wait. And they'll eventually recover. We're no different. When we're shocked, we'll shut down. The flow that is inside all of us starts to cut off. It starts to go, it's not safe. I need to hold on to this. sense of hypervigilance because it's not safe to be in this environment or the situation or whatever. Reconnecting the different pieces of the puzzle in the human neurobiology is huge. It's very informed by polyvagal theory as well, and how the nerves travel to the different major organs of the body. So when I'm on a table, somebody's on the table with me, we might address, the gut. We might address the heart and lungs. We might address, the ears. Maybe somebody was yelled at a lot, and we just work on the ears, and they have profound healing. So I know I kind of went on and on there, but I hope that got to the root of what you're.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very, very interesting. I haven't heard of a lot of this stuff. I've heard of EMDR, but I haven't heard a lot of any of these other topics, and it's definitely enlightening.
Definitely intriguing. I think it's something that we should probably look into more. Yeah. Just in our own personal lives.
Well, we live in the Midwest, which is kind of a void for a lot of these things,
Yeah, that's for sure. The Midwest is kind of a void for a lot. Just saying. But one thing that I noticed in our research, you work with International Association of Trauma Recovery Coaching. They have a holiday Pay It Forward campaign. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Yes. Anyone who within the association who's certified, that means they have their CTRC after their name, Certified Trauma Recovery Coach, is invited to if they want to take part in this promotion. So through the end of the year, through December 31st, anyone who has decided, myself included, to take part in that promotion is offering unlimited $25 sessions. So no matter what any of the coaches decide in their business model to charge, regardless of what they charge, they decide to do $25 sessions if they take part in this promotion. So for me, I'm doing hour-long sessions for $25. I'm actually offering that too for my brick and mortar business for the bodywork, which I charge a lot more for that. But so if somebody's local to me in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and they come to me for that, and they've never done it before because they can't afford to spend the money. And the coaching. Some of the coaches in the association are very reasonably priced, and because they know most of us who are in trauma recovery have probably had a lifetime struggling with financial situations because we're still holding on to the effects of that trauma. So that's a huge thing during the holidays. We all, what's weird, Joe and Rebecca, it seems to be more common to hear people talking about on social media how hard the holidays are than it is to talk about how much joy there is in the holidays. It's just wild.
Yeah, it's funny that you mention that because you do see that more. You hear more about the grumbling of the holiday season, and it's inconvenient to do this or that, or I have to go and see these people that I only see once or twice a year and I can't really stand them, or any number of things that can make the holidays miserable. And you hear from people, I hate the holidays, or whatever. And the actual joy of the season, it seems like, I remember being a kid, the holidays were a great time of year. Everybody was festive and all that, and it seems like a lot of that has gone away. And I can't speak for anybody else, but I know for me, we've got a radio station here that plays Christmas music 24 hours a day starting November 1st. And I force feed myself that stuff to try and help get me into the holiday spirit.
And I watch holiday baking shows.
Yes, she does.
Yes.
And repeat.
A lot. I never in my life knew what a croquembouche was until we started watching these shows, and now I can't get the stupid word out of my head.
Oh, God, no, don't tell me. I don't want to know.
On a side note, it looks really tasty. But and the holidays can be a traumatic time of year too, and trying to find a little bit of joy in the season, sometimes that's the challenge.
What it is too, though, is that as we're getting older and our social network is the people are getting older, we're losing people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my parents are gone. Your father and grandmother are gone.
Mm-hmm. Thankfully,
your mom is still here, but you know, I've lost 2 brothers in the last few years, and it's just the older you get, the harder the holidays become because you sort of long for what it used to be.
Yeah.
And you can't find that anymore.
Yeah.
So you have to start all over again with your own new traditions and try to, you know, find joy that way.
Yeah. You know, a godsend for us was actually, and we've mentioned this before, but Beck's niece Katie had her first child last year, and so this will be technically Luna's second Christmas because she was about a month old.
Fun.
Yeah, so you know that's kind of a thing for us now is we've got this to look forward to is we get to experience Christmas all over again through her eyes, which you know because Beck and I never had kids, so that's kind of our surrogate kid almost, you know, and trying
we're like
to
the grandparents.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I don't know whose quote this is, but people say in order to maintain a sense of youthful joy, hang out with people under 7 and over 70.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting pretty close to having to wrap up the show. So why don't you tell us how our listeners can contact you and a little bit about your social media links.
You bet. Hey, I've got my website, wissmiller.com, which is a work in progress. I'm still wanting to make it easier for people to connect, but they can through that. They can send me an email, support@wissmiller.com. They can connect with me on my Facebook business page, Will Wissmiller Coaching. I'm on Instagram at Will Wissmiller Coaching, and I'm on Twitter at TheUnquiet1, and it's the number 1. So I've got my phone number out there. Until that becomes a problem, I'm going to leave it out there, but it's 573-837-9124 because I want people to feel like they can reach out whatever way is comfortable for them. If somebody texts me, you know, I try to get back right away to people no matter how they get in touch with me within 24 hours. Sometimes it might be 48 because, you know what, guess what? I'm a trauma survivor too. Sometimes I go into a cave. Yeah, sometimes I go into a cave. So just know that. Reach out, and I'm there, but if I don't respond, it's not because I don't want to. And real quick, I want to mention that just because I'm so passionate about what I do, that if people are interested in the trauma recovery coaching, there's a new initial class coming up in February of next year. Look up the IAOTRC. If you type that in, you're going to get to the International Association of Trauma Recovery Coaching. Look into that if it sounds interesting to you. I'm going to actually be assisting at a training in San Francisco for the Neuroaffective Touch in February. So please reach out to Aileen Lapierre's website, neuroaffectivetouch.com. If you're interested in training. They've got it in LA, in San Francisco next year. I think there's going to be one in Australia. She just finished one up in Oslo, Norway. Amazing stuff. So if you're an existing body worker or therapist, you could get into that model. They tend to like people to have some sort of background already. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else that. I was interviewed for a book not long ago by Marissa L. Cohen. Marissa Cohen wrote a book, Breaking the Silence, talking about, she interviewed a lot of people who were sex abuse survivors. So she wrote a book recently called Breaking the Silence, Men Too. So that I would like to plug her because she put my information for coaching in the back of her book too. So I feel like, hey, quid pro quo. I asked her before I came on if I could mention. And she's doing some amazing work. She has a foundation called Within Your Reach. It's in the Chicago area, and she does a lot of things in that area. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's very cool.
Yeah.
And what is next for you?
Oh, gosh. I just moved into a bigger office space in the same house that I'm in Cape Girardeau, so that's been exciting. In the new year, well, this promotion, this Pay It Forward promotion through the association is hopefully we'll get an influx of people seeking help the holiday season. I really hope to see that happen. In the new year, I will be working at the supervisory level soon for the association, so I'll be training more at the training level through the association, as well as being involved as an assistant for Aileen in the neuroaffective touch. So trying to build my social media presence has been hard for me. I'm more of an extrovert. I like to be out and about and do and see and connect and build locally. I really want to try to build my business because I'm in the Midwest. I have a friend who's a coach in St. Louis, and we're the only two that I know of are coaches out here, and I'm the only one. I think I know one in Chicago area that was at the training I went to for the neuroaffective touch. We're the only ones out here in the Midwest who can do that work. You know, I'd like to see that because more people are asking, what is it? You have to build a trust level with I'm in the show me state. They're like, what is that? Show me, you know.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, good luck with getting it built, and hopefully being on our show will definitely, you know, contribute to that. It's something we're definitely curious about now. I think it would be beneficial to the both of us to pursue some more just personally. And, you know, thanks for helping us shed some light on it, Will. You know, we're really grateful about that.
Oh, guys, I'm so thankful to have the opportunity. You know, your audience, you've got a lot of people that follow you, and the hashtag Keep Talking MH has led me to meeting other folks online and connecting. So it's a way to pay back. You know, keep doing what you're doing, and you know, I understand going into the cave, and gosh, there's so much compassion, and I know, Rebecca, you've been open and vocal about how you've been doing, and I'm so thankful that you're back. And Joe and you guys are back here doing this.
Oh, thanks.
Yes. And I would love to come on again in the future. You know, if you ever need to fill a spot, let me know.
All right, we would love to have you. Just,
absolutely.
You know where to find me, so reach out if anything new comes up that you want to talk about, and we'll try to get you on.
Yep. And
Will do.
Stay on the line, Will. We're going to be finishing out the show with the song Your Magic from Matt Stern, and we'll see you guys next week.
Adios.
Take care, everybody.
Show.
You are the best thing. You hold my heart inside your hands. Your magic. You make me crazy. Your touch, it makes me lose my head. It's tragic. It's all over. That's what you said. It's all finished. Gonna lay in bed. You can tell your friends. They can leave when they want to. If this feeling has gone to your head, nobody but me sees you like I see you. Nobody can see you like I do. you there so softly. Down a little closer, you can feel safety. I'll show you where so gently. You are the best thing, you hold my heart inside your hands. You're magic, magic. You make me crazy, your touch it makes me lose my head. It's tragic, magic. Yeah.